The long-standing rivalry between the US and Russia is still very much alive in the skies. Massive aircraft at the cutting edge of technology, silhouettes armed with stealth radar and mind-boggling maneuvers. The danger shaking Russia is that the Su-57 program, which seemed ambitious enough to offset the US F-22 Raptor fighter jet, suddenly risked collapse. As the Kremlin plans to bolster its military aviation amid the war in Ukraine, Western sanctions are cutting production of 5th and even 6th generation fighter jets like a knife. The Su-57, marketed by Russia as a rival to the F-22 Raptor, is facing a serious crisis. And why? What obstacles can ground these planes before they take off? And will Russia really fall behind in this Cold War-like race? Let's look for answers to these questions together. In the midst of the Ukrainian aggression, Russia wants to upgrade its Air Force inventory. But Western sanctions have jeopardized its 5th and 6th generation fighter jets. Bad news for Russia regarding the Su-57 fighter jet, a formidable competitor to the US F-22 Raptor. The war in Ukraine has been going on for 3 years. Ukrainian experts say that key parts of Russia's new generation of fighter jets are based on Western patented or licensed chips. If high-end projects such as the Su-57 are heavily dependent on these parts, it is questionable how sustainable their production is. The 3-year-long war between Russia and Ukraine has many countries worried about World War III. The deterioration of trust and peace stability has increased defense industry investments. Russia wants to put its 6th generation fighter jets and unmanned fighter jets into operation. It is stated that Russia will be dependent on the electronic field of Western countries in the production of 6th generation fighter jets, including the 5th generation. There is a big obstacle in front of Russia: Western sanctions. The more trade and technology flows are restricted, the more difficult it is for the Russian aviation industry to procure vital electronic components. In particular, the control mechanisms imposed by the US and the EU are driving the Russian defense industry into a deadlock at key points. It is clear that Russia's military industry is heavily dependent on Western components, especially electronics, the Ukrainian analysis group said. Sanctions imposed by Western governments in the 31 months since Russia expanded its war on Ukraine have severely restricted the supply of this vital hardware. As a result, production of the Su-57 is now at risk. The Su-57 is a high-speed fighter with radar evasion capabilities, designed as a competitor to the US Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. Before starting the Su-57 project, Russia wanted to develop variants of the existing Mikoyan MiG-29S and Sukhoi Su-27S. The Su-57 made its first flight in 2010, 20 years after the world's first 5th-generation stealth fighter, the Raptor. In 2019, the Kremlin signed a contract for 76 production jets at a reported cost of around $50 million per unit. The Russian firm delivered the first 10 production Su-57s to the Air Force in 2022 and the other 11 in 2023. Sukhoi has reportedly delivered only a few more aircraft so far this year. The Russian Air Force has lost 2 Su-57s to accidents, including one test model. In June, a Ukrainian drone attack on the Akhtubinsk State Flight Test Center in southern Russia destroyed another ground-based Su-57. While Sukhoi was once able to legally import MPPU-50S and parts for MPPU-50S, it now has to illegally purchase them from third parties. Considering that Russian military production continues to expand in 2023 and 2024, it is clear that they are finding ways to smuggle key components or buy Chinese spare parts to maintain production. Some experts have suggested that Russia should turn to producing simpler fighter jets, such as the MiG-35, which would be more affordable and easier to manufacture. However, with the US starting to produce 6th-generation fighters, Russia is worried about being left behind. In addition, Russia's Su-57 and the US F-22 were pitted against each other in terms of their characteristics. While the Su-57 attracts attention with its maneuverability and speed performance, the F-22 Raptor draws attention with its maneuverability and stealth. So let's see what kind of result emerged in the Su-57 F-22 Raptor's encounter. The rivalry between the Russian Su-57 and the US F-22 Raptor, one of the endless debates on aviation and war in recent years, continues. While the Russian and US rivalry has also witnessed a race in the field of fighter jets, the US F-22 Raptor and Russia's Su-57 were pitted against each other. The aircraft, which are both powerful in terms of their features, also have features that differ from each other. While the F-22 Raptor focuses on maneuverability and stealth, the Su-57 has exceptional performance in maneuverability and speed. The American F-22 and the Russian Su-57 stand out as fifth-generation fighter jets. Russia and the United States. These two fighter jets remain some of the most advanced military combat aircraft in the world, demonstrating the development of aviation technology in their time. While both aircraft are leaders in their respective fields, they differ in terms of their capabilities. Their design philosophies are distinctly different. While the inventors of the F-22 focused on maneuverability and stealth, the inventors of the Su-57 aim for exceptional performance in maneuverability and speed. The main factor of the Su-57's efficiency is its two engines, which allow it to reach speeds of up to Mach 1.5. The aircraft has a Belka radar system and a modern electronic countermeasure system. The fighter's design also includes two internal weapons bays that house four K-77M radar-guided missiles. The underwing fairings contain a pair of K-74M, two short-range guided missiles. The F-22 has a pair of turbofan engines that provide speeds of up to Mach 1.4. An AN/APG-77 radar is installed to dodge enemy threats and detect enemy aircraft before they detect the F-22 Raptor. This allows the fighter to be the first to spot the enemy, which means it has time to be the first to fire. In the hull, three weapons bays, two of which can accommodate an AIM-9M infrared-guided missile. Another bay holds six AIM-120 radar-guided missiles. There may also be satellite-guided JDAM ammunition in the bay. Also, the F-22 is an American stealth air superiority fighter, about the same size as the F-15 and about 1.5 times the size of the F-16. It beat the F-23 in a tender in the late 80s or early 90s to become the next-generation fighter of the U.S. Air Force. The F-22, also known as the Raptor, is an ubersonic fighter jet, designed especially for dogfighting and seems to be unrivaled in this field for now. Experts wondered how a possible duel between these aircraft would end. After all, they have different advantages at different ranges. The Su-57 can win a fight because it can detect stealthy aircraft at long distances, and its emphasis on speed allows it to enter the battle quickly and then quickly exit. When two fighters appear, the Su-57's high maneuverability will significantly increase the chances of destroying the enemy. However, the F-22 holds the trump card. It can also detect the enemy at great distances, but at the same time evade the Su-57 radar, and thus be ambushed for a surprise attack. The American plane has a much better chance of winning before it, and the Su-57 are within sight of each other. The Su-57's stealth aircraft feature, or what we call the stealth radar system, is the ability of airplanes to pass without being caught by radar. Even though this feature is among the features of Su-57 aircraft, it is considered insufficient by the authorities. The reason for this is said to be the design of the engine air intakes under the fuselage. However, the conditions under which they are used are also among the important factors affecting the invisibility of this fighter jet on radar. On the other hand, the F-35, which is currently in use by the U.S. military and more than 1,000 fighters in several countries, is based on fourth-generation jet fighters with numerous technological features. Likewise, the pros and cons of the Su-57 and the F-35 against each other are highly controversial. These two air monsters represent the United States and Russia, which faced each other and fought a space war during the Cold War in the 60s. Blended with the Soviet Union School, the Su-57 is indispensable for the Russian Air Force. As mentioned earlier, it is an advanced twin-engine stealth fighter with unpiloted supersonic flight capability. Although it is said that Su-57s cannot be integrated into NATO defense systems, Russia seems to be too ambitious in this regard. The F-35, the fifth-generation jet fighter of the U.S., is a jet fighter with advanced avionics. The F-35 aircraft in use by the U.S. military are produced by adding numerous technological features to the fourth-generation jet fighters. Among its features, low radar signature, concealability of all weapons, high performance, high maneuverability come to the fore. The F-35, which can take off and land vertically, is equipped with a 25mm GAU-22/A aircraft cannon, air-to-air and air-to-surface class missiles, and GBU-31 JDAM and GBU-32 JDAM guided bombs. It should be noted that the vertical takeoff and landing feature, which is one of the most prominent features of the US-made F-35 fighter jet, is not available on the Su-57. The vertical takeoff and landing feature is a strategic feature in terms of landing on difficult terrain, ships, and even low roofs. The ability to take off and land under difficult conditions is an important criterion in aviation. Thanks to this feature, fighter jets will be able to create serious advantages against the Navy or individuals they are up against, and will be able to benefit from the vertical landing and takeoff feature. Although both aircraft are equipped with superior technologies and have various features, they are not direct competitors. Both aircraft are used for different purposes. It is worth noting that the Su-57 has not been used much by Russia, except for a few tests in Syria, while the F-35 is actively used in the field by the US Navy. The F-35 is an airplane developed more for hitting targets on land. The Su-57, on the other hand, is designed primarily to combat enemy aircraft, with its high maneuverability, which is listed among its features above. F-35s do not have advanced maneuverability. In this context, we can say that even if the Su-57 has a chance to compete with the F-35s, its main competitor is the F-22 Raptor, and it cannot reach this system. After all, these two aircraft are equipped with superior combat technologies, loaded with many detailed powers and features, and capable of putting their opponents in a difficult situation in air operations. In a contested air defense environment, the United States can no longer take air superiority for granted. This shift is important for the U.S. military. After years of fighting air superiority, the Joint Force has forgotten many of the skills and doctrines learned from previous air campaigns. The research team's review of air operations in Ukraine in 2024 offers lessons for the Joint Force. These include the need to train for conditions of weather parity, the need to assemble and synchronize the Joint Force to conduct multi-domain offensive counter-air operations, develop passive and active defensive counter-air tactics, conduct rapid and survivable kill chains at scale, explore unmanned technologies, and ensure adequate stockpiles of war material. These lessons should be re-emphasized and incorporated into service doctrine and the joint warfighting concept to ensure U.S. capabilities to achieve and sustain air superiority in future conflicts. These air power lessons also apply to NATO, which must increase its offensive and defensive counter-air operations by improving its situational awareness, resilience, interoperability, and innovation. Ukraine has shown that strong air and missile defenses can influence an overall campaign, and that air interdiction can be an effective interim solution, especially for NATO members lacking offensive air capabilities, before NATO deploys full offensive air power. It is also worth noting that, as has been the case since the start of the war in February 2022, the continued military and diplomatic support of Ukraine's partners is critical. Russia's invasion of Ukraine underscores the importance of air power in modern warfare at a time when the country aims to upgrade existing platforms and produce new aircraft. All in all, the most important lesson learned from the Russian-Ukrainian war is that air superiority is still an indispensable prerequisite. The war in Ukraine and its management to date has been a lesson in the importance of air superiority. The most obvious example is the failure of the Russian Air Force to establish air superiority and outmaneuver Ukrainian forces to achieve a decisive victory at the outset of the conflict. War experts have once again emphasized the importance of achieving air superiority in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, noting that if the Russian Federation were to achieve air superiority, the conflict would not only be protracted, but would also take a very different trajectory. Although Russia has a seemingly superior air force, it has been largely neutralized by Ukraine's air defense capabilities, including older Russian-designed systems and new equipment procured from the West. Similarly, Ukraine's small air force has been unable to fully support the army units fighting on the front line. The lack of effective air power on both sides led to an attritional and high-attrition conflict. Successful outcomes have been seen in wars where air power has freedom of action and where air power is tightly integrated with ground forces. On the other hand, where air power is absent or where air power is not well integrated with other areas, the results are less desirable. He adds that conflict is witnessing the rise of what he calls the air coast, characterized by small, low-cost drones, including weapons with first-person sights that operators fly directly at targets. While such innovations can be effective for a while, they can be quickly countered in a rapid innovation cycle. In sum, the failure of the Russian Air Force to initially establish air superiority cost Vladimir Putin's forces the ability to achieve a decisive victory early in the conflict. The second is about the difficulty of achieving air superiority with insufficient resources and capabilities. The result is a conflict based on attrition that is draining the Russian military day by day. Ukraine has the potential to turn things around. Properly equipped, Ukraine can conduct an integrated air-ground campaign to secure air superiority whenever and wherever it wants to reverse the territorial gains the Russian military has made so far. To do so, Ukraine must plan and execute operations that integrate long-range surface-to-surface weapons with fighter aircraft, drones, cyber operations, electronic warfare, and special operations to achieve air superiority. If successful, Ukraine could gain the upper hand against the Russians, penetrate their front lines, and turn the tide of the war. F-16s are about to enter Ukrainian service, but what impact this will have depends on many factors, such as the number of F-16s and F-16 pilots available for combat operations, the level of training, pilot proficiency, and experience, the capability or block of F-16s provided, the weapons available, the number, level of training, and proficiency of F-16 maintenance personnel, the aircraft's ability to survive and operate under Russian attack. Currently, neither Russia nor Ukraine uses fighter jets to conduct deep strikes, relying instead on missiles and drones. Lethal air defenses on both sides have resulted in a situation of air parity where no power controls the air. Nevertheless, Ukrainian air defenses, combined with innovative indicators and warning applications, have successfully limited the damage caused by Russian airstrikes, despite Russia's numerical superiority in aircraft. For Ukraine, Russia's aerospace forces' weak leadership, lack of training, and ground-centric doctrine already limit their potential. It is worth recalling that Russian air power had much less impact on the war than initially expected. Moreover, one of the signature elements of this conflict was the rapid development and use of uninhabited systems by both Ukraine and Russia. While UAVs have been used in many wars dating back to World War II, we have never seen such widespread use of these systems in combat. In 2023, Ukraine sent 100,000 small drones to the front line and carried out nearly 200 long-range strikes against Moscow and its bomber bases using kamikaze-shaped attack drones. Russia has also fired thousands of ballistic and cruise missiles and attack drones at Ukraine. While the short-range quadcopters currently flying over the front lines already provide surveillance and targeting information and offer limited precision strike capabilities, the longer-range uninhabited systems that are proliferating on the battlefields in Ukraine represent the true potential of these low-cost precision strike systems. Ukraine and Russia now fly thousands of sorties per month on the battlefield using small short-range UAVs or drones. Both are using commercial drones and military variants on the front lines. Ukraine recently created a separate branch of its armed forces to accelerate innovation in uninhabited system development on land, sea, and air. Moreover, longer-range attack drones continue to be widely used. Ukraine plans to build thousands of systems like Shahed, long-range attack UAVs capable of deep strikes. Following the launch of a development study in spring 2022, 10 Ukrainian companies are now producing UAVs capable of reaching Moscow and St. Petersburg. As Ukraine's digital minister noted, the category of long-range kamikaze UAVs is growing with a range of 300, 500, 700, and 1,000 kilometers. 2 years ago, this category did not exist. New Ukrainian long-range UAV types are being field tested and incorporated into the inventory. Ukraine is currently fielding UAVs with a range of 1,500 kilometers against Russian infrastructure targets, and a new MQ-9-like variant with an announced range of 3,300 kilometers. We can even say that it has used it on the battlefield. Ukrainian operations using these systems have increased over time. Ukraine's long-range attack drones have repeatedly struck a Russian oil refinery, followed by attacks on Crimea, including an attack on the Black Sea Fleet and Saki Air Base headquarters, reportedly damaging or destroying 10 aircraft. Ukraine has carried out multiple long-range drone strikes against targets including oil fields, air bases, and even the Kremlin in Moscow. In sum, if there is a lesson to be drawn from the Russian-Ukrainian war to date, it is the absolute necessity of air superiority to gain a decisive advantage. Without it, the conflict will turn into a relative stalemate, literally resembling the trench warfare of World War I. So, what do you think about this topic? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching us. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and like to support us.